I think Jake Paul wants to make his MMA debut in the PFL, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
man, Sam Alvey
Oh,
versus Jake Paul, PFL, why not?
PFL is a they're aware that PFL knows that I'm interested in it. We've talked to them. We put out the messages. I thought the vets were going to slaughter them. I thought I don't know whose team the vets are going to be on,
Well, you're not
but
wrong so far.
so yeah, apparently so far.
I didn't watch
Uh,
episode 3. Did they win the vets in episode 3?
I, they did, but I missed it as well. Yeah, the vets
So
have
it's
won
three
everything so
zero.
far. Yep, 3-0.
I'm curious, man, what are your thoughts on what he said, specifically, sort of including you into that quote out of the blue? Like, what was your reaction? The internet had some fun with it, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, that bastard, man. I was sitting here just eating my lunch, and I get a stray bullet coming off the side. It's like, well, what in the hell is that?
We got longtime UFC vet, mixed martial artist for a long time as well. Sam Alvey, fresh off that win at B2 Fighting Series. Man, how's life been treating you?
Oh, just real well. It's good to be back in the winning column, build to start rebuilding my career, and we'll see where I go next.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, the win is the big thing we want to talk about. Last time we spoke, it was a win that you were after. Nonetheless, you finally got that win. How are you feeling right now, man? As you look back on it, what are the feelings after a victory?
It felt great. I mean, it was nice. It was the easiest weight cut of my life. I
Sure.
he
Yeah,
outweighed
yeah.
he outweighed me by 50 pounds, so it was the easiest weight cut. I showed up eating a sandwich, and so I don't know that I'm going to stay at heavyweight unless Francis Ngannou says he wants a piece, but but yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm ready to diet again. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, I was gonna bring that up, right? The heavyweight. Obviously, last time you fought at middleweight, right? You jumped up about 2 weight classes. Is it safe to say that heavyweight isn't really in the future? Maybe light heavyweight, something like that?
Yeah, goal is light heavyweight, but I couldn't get anyone to fight me. I still can't get anyone to fight me at middleweight or
Right.
light heavyweight. I had to sacrifice 50 pounds to get anyone to say yes. Fighters aren't as tough as I used to be. I tell you what, but if I don't plan on staying at heavyweight, but if that's all, fight anyone anywhere.
Absolutely. And I look between the last fight and this one, obviously jumping up in weight like that could be like a big difference when you're actually in there, right? We could talk about it all day, but when you're actually in there, how does it feel when you're in there with a guy? Again, you said what, 50 pounds heavier than you? He looked like double your size. I mean, how did it feel in there? Like when you guys are clinching, when you take him down, is it a different sort of power?
Yeah, I got tired. I've always bragged about my conditioning. I say Frankie Edgar and Sean Strickland have better conditioning than me, but other than those two, I've got it down. The extra weight, I got tired probably 3/4 or through round two. It was just the constant him hanging on me having to move such a big guy. It got to me. So if I fight heavyweight again, I've got to adapt. I got to change my cardio around a little bit, get a little more used to hanging out with the big guys. Otherwise, I'll go back down and keep my cardio where it's at.
Absolutely. Now, how comfortable are you with guys, like Tom Gallicchio? And I'm sorry if I butchered the name.
No, you nailed it actually.
Did I? Okay, well, that feels good. Anyway, how comfortable are you with guys like that in your corner? I know the combination of those two was obviously the first time, but what was it like?
Yeah, well, Tom Galicchio's cornered me many times.
Right,
Tom's
him,
been
yes.
he's been a friend trainer. He stood up with me at my wedding. So Tom's been a good coach and good friend to me for years. Justin, we were buddies through TikTok. We kind of met up once a year ago out in Vegas, and we've just stayed in contact. I said, "Hey, it's kind of in your neck of the woods. You want to come out?" He said, "I'll be there, bro." And no, it was great. And I tell all my guys that I corners that during the fight, I'm not going to teach you anything. I'm not going to tell you anything you probably don't know already. I'm going to be there for just little things. I'm going to be there to remind you to breathe. I'm going to be there to remind you to keep your hands up. So
Right.
I'm talking to Justice and just remind me the little things. Breathe, move, keep my hands up. If any fighter could do those three things, that they'll never lose. So he was great with that. Then Tom, he came in with the technical side of things. I mean, he didn't have to waste time reminding me to breathe. He got to tell me, all right, we want you to go inside control. We want to start looking for the knees. We want you to start controlling the wrists a little bit. He was he's always been a wonderful corner. I think I'm undefeated with him in my corner, which is nice.
Obviously, you had your kids walk you to the cage, right? Not sure how many fighters get a chance to do that. What was that like, man?
It was so nice. I mean, they've been to all my fights. They've been to a lot of them. My little girl, who was the the Queen Elvis there when she walked out. She actually was in my corner when she was 6 months old for the MFC. I mean, we got her in the corner. I think she was allowed there for like the first round, and then the commission said, "Oh, get her out of here!" And we had to pass
Youngest
her out.
cornerman in MMA history.
She was, it was, and she doesn't remember that, but they will all remember this. Four of my, well, I have six, but one's too young, one's a year old.
Yeah.
Four of the five that were there went. My littlest girl, she got scared, she got nervous, so she didn't walk down, but the rest of them did.
Well, luckily, the littlest one will get to see it on camera one day. We are in the age of technology, so hopefully she doesn't remember that. I'm curious about this, right? Because you got guys like Usman say when he takes his kids to the fight, it's difficult. Connor, maybe it's not the case for you, right? Everyone's different, right? Is it difficult to hug the kids out there, and then you got to go into the cage and turn on that switch? Is that like an easy thing for you to do? Because if it's something you were comfortable with, then I'm sure it was easy for you, right? Or maybe it wasn't.
No, it's always been something I'm comfortable with. I love having those kids with me. I mean, they're big inspiration to win outside of the paycheck. But they've always enjoyed being part of it, and I've always enjoyed having them there. So it's never been an issue, and I hope they're at every one of my fights.
Yeah, of course. Speaking of the fight, right? You fought Cam Graham, right? Obviously, a tough fighter, a bigger fighter than you, but was he better than you thought overall, or was it about what you expected in your time in there with him?
It was about what I expected. His weight got to me a little bit. Like I wasn't expecting the extra 50 pounds to slow me down like it did, but it did, and it's a mistake I won't make twice. I mean, I fought heavyweight before, but it's been 17 years since I've done it. So it's been a minute since I fought heavyweight.
Yeah,
and the weight. It's something I'm going to be able to bring back to my coaching. I'm going to be able to remind people, be as big as you can and fight as little as you can.
I think that's a good way to look at it, right? Obviously, in life, anything that happens, you could only take it as a lesson, right? I mean, you could choose to take it as a lesson if you want. That'd be the positive outcome. So I think that the fact that you're sort of parlaying that into something you could teach your students, I think that's a sort of smart approach. Obviously, you got that early takedown, early ground and pound. How important was that, do you think, to sort of, set the tone for the rest of the fight, send the message, hey, I could take you down if I need to?
Yeah, you know what? I kind of changed plans. Of 80 fights or 80 whatever fights I have, I think that was the first takedown I've ever done. And then I did it 3 or 4 times in the fight. When he clenched and I was hitting him, but he was able to kind of fall into me. And he was a lot of pressure on me, a lot of weight on me.
Right.
And so I said, I don't want to risk him pulling away and landing that shot. So it was like, I got that trip takedown and I was able to ride him on top. I said, okay, well, this will be my game plan from here on out. I'll get him to push into me. I'll get the reverse and take him down. And it worked perfectly. I should have had that TKO in the first round. It was there.
And you had him flattened out and you were punching?
I was beating the brakes off him. I had my fist pushed up against the cage so I can get better leverage off with my punch.
The ref thought you were grabbing the cage.
The ref said, damn, quit grabbing the cage. I'm not grabbing the cage.
He's not grabbing the cage, ref.
Stop the fight. Quit grabbing the cage. I said, I'm not grabbing the cage. I was real careful not to move. And you can see, I pointed at my fist with the other hand, and he said, "Oh, sorry, fight." The fight continued, but it was only another 4 seconds, and then the round ended. But it should have been a first round TKO. But you know what? God works in mysterious ways. I now know 3 rounds is more difficult than 1 round with a big boy like that.
You don't have any regrets though, right? About when it was stopped. Does that really matter to you or no? Or I mean, obviously you want to get out there. It looks flashier on paper, Sam Alvey, first round KO, right? But what do you think about that?
I wanted the TKO. I had opportunities in all 3 rounds to get a submission, and I didn't want the submission. That was my 20th professional TKO knockout in MMA. That's right. I went in the cage wanting that. I would have preferred a big knockout, big walk-off knockout, but I'll take the TKO. It was a pretty dominant TKO, and I was pretty happy with the way it ended.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of, the way it ended, right? You'll still take that, right? You still got the finish nonetheless.
Yep. Oh yeah, 100%. No, I got a TKO for people on the internet can quit whining at me. So you should win. I got a TKO in my last fight, internet.
Yeah, absolutely. After the fight, man, you called out some familiar names, right? Logan Paul, Jake Paul. Last time we spoke, I don't think you were too high on their skills, right? Obviously, you sparred Logan, so you were talking from personal experience, not just talking from the internet like, most people do. That was about 5 years ago, though, right? Sort of as time goes on, I mean, are they better than you thought they were? Are they impressing you sort of as time goes by, or do you still think that they're not that good?
Logan Paul is real good at wrestling. I love watching him
We
WWE.
spoke about that, and yeah, you gave him his credit on that last time. Yeah.
He's done some real cool stuff in there, and I would love the opportunity. Logan, I've always liked well enough. It's Jake I'm not crazy about. And Jake, no, Jake sucks. He's not a good boxer. I can't believe so many people keep saying he is. His footwork's bad. He throws from his hip. He's got no head movement. He's got a gas tank that'll last 3 of 6 rounds. He's just very limited in what he's doing. Now he's only fought 4 times or 5 times, so it is what it is. I mean, he will get better. He's paying the world's greatest trainers, and he has all the money in the world to get better. But for him to be able to claim he's the next big thing, the next greatest it's ever been, it's a little premature for my eyes. I think Nate Diaz has a good chance of beating him. However, Jake again is just fighting people that are 2 weight classes smaller than him. So we'll see how the fight goes. But I think the conditioning could play a role.
You think Nate's conditioning can play a role?
No, both. Jake's negatively, Nate's well. It's
right,
10 rounds now.
Because we know Nate has some good conditioning, right?
Yeah. Jake doesn't have good conditioning. He's going to be able to go for 3 or 4 rounds, maybe. Now that it's 10 rounds, maybe he'll get to round 5 before he starts hugging him. But I definitely see Jake I see Jake winning the first 2 or 3 rounds, maybe even dropping him a 2 or 2. But I think he's going to get caught up in the drop. Diaz is going to get up and then just start picking him apart, tearing him up in the later rounds.
Not to harp on this, but I do respect your opinion, man. You've been around the game for a long time. You're a vet of the UFC. You watch fights. You're also a fan. So I'm just curious, right? Just to play devil's advocate, did you see this Anderson Silva fight, and what did you think about that? Did he impress you in that fight or no?
He impressed me that I won. So I picked against Jake every time except the second Woodley fight.
Yeah.
So I've been wrong about him almost always. So he impressed me that Anderson didn't beat him. Anderson looked old. Anderson looked old going into the fight, and he's 50 years old. I went out there and had a good time. It was a good showing, but I don't think Jake looked great beating Anderson. Power to him for doing it. He proved me wrong, but I still was not impressed with what he did.
Back to the original fight, I guess it still sort of ties in with the two brothers. You did call out, you called them out after the fight. As far as fighting one of those guys, would you like to fight one of those guys in boxing or MMA?
I would take Jake wherever. I want to fight Logan Paul in WWE. I want to go out there. I want to pin him 1, 2, 3.
Smiling Sam makes his WWE debut.
Oh yeah, against Logan Paul, table, ladder, and chairs match. Well, we will make it just the greatest greatest fight of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only reason I keep harping on this again, I mean, not just as far as your knowledge, you've been in the game for a while, but I think Jake Paul wants to make his MMA debut in the PFL, right? I mean, man, Sam Alvey versus Jake Paul, PFL, why not?
PFL they're aware that PFL knows that I'm interested in it. We've talked to them. We put out the messages. We don't know that it'll happen. At the end of the day, we all know Jake Paul is Jake Paul, and he will pick who he wants to pick.
Sure.
And I'm probably too big for what he would want. He only likes fighting the little guys.
Well, you were a middleweight at once, right?
And I'm still a middleweight. I would fight whatever weight class he wanted, but he tends to only fight the guys that are smaller.
True.
Or way older than him. Woodley at 170, Diaz is a 155, right?
Silva was the same size but older, like you said, so that kind of cancels.
But 50 years old.
Sure.
And so Jake will pick who he wants, because I'm sure he wants to win so he can brag more about he's the greatest MMA fighter that's ever been. So I don't know if I'm the guy that he's going to pick, but I'm making sure that I'm ready to do it.
Sure. I mean, listen, I think that'd be a fun fight. And to me, it kind of does make sense. I saw you doing a little Ultimate Fighter promo online, as someone who was on the show, right? I've been interviewing a lot of the fighters recently that are on the show as well. So I'm curious to sort of get your thoughts, right? And while we're at it, one of your students are on the Ultimate Fighter, right? Is it Team Chandler or Team Connor?
He's on Team Connor. Trevor Wells. Trevor Wells.
Yeah, it's starting to get Yeah.
I think he's I believe he fights next week. I think he was supposed to fight last week, but it ended
canceled.
Up getting pushed till. Yeah, he got pushed up. I love Joe. I am a fan of Connor. I didn't start off that way, but his mouth is told me. He speaks almost as well as Chandler does. He's just real entertaining to listen to how he thinks his career is going to go and what tends to happen.
Absolutely. Listen, somebody who must know him to some extent, right, Trevor? What do you think people could expect of him as a fighter going forward, right? Not only on the show, but as far as after the show and whatnot. Like, he's an exciting fighter, right? So, like, what do you think people could expect of this guy? Anyone who's maybe not familiar with him, because you are quite familiar.
Well, Trevor, in like all of his fights, he sets records for highest strike count. I mean, he hits guys over and over and over. He's not a power shot guy like I am, but he is a Frankie Edgar kind of. The knockout's always potentially there because Trevor just outlands everyone.
Yeah.
And then a fun stat about Trevor is that every fight he's ever been in, he's gotten a takedown, which is hard to do. He's got a pretty decent sized record now. I think he's 8-2 or something close to it. He's got a takedown in every fight he's ever had. So he's one of the more entertaining fighters that's out there. As soon as I can get him to run his mouth a little bit, he'll be the most entertaining on the mic too.
There you go. You're gonna have to give him some of that smiling Sam heel persona tactics.
Man, I've been trying. Fighters are so nervous about talking. They just talk. It doesn't have to be bad. You don't have to be, you don't have to be Connor. You can be whoever you want to be. Just let your mouth go. Let people see your personality a little bit.
Absolutely. And speaking of Connor, apparently they did half the numbers on the debut episode for this season compared to when Connor was fighting Uriah all those years back. I mean, to me, that was surprising because even though Connor's taken some losses, he has won. I mean, even though Connor's taken some losses, he has only gained popularity. Like, he's more famous now than he was even 6 years ago when he was at the height of his prime, right? Was it surprising to you, the numbers? Because to me, it was kind of surprising.
I know because streaming down illegal streaming. I think there's a lot of people watching that aren't actually watching on ESPN.
Fair
And
enough. Yeah.
ESPN, man, it is so hard to watch it. They put so many commercial breaks in it. I've never seen them try and pump so much money out of every episode. It feels like every 4 minutes they're putting another commercial run. If the commercials then go for 4 minutes. So I think ESPN's dropped the ball a little bit, not letting Connor and Chandler's personality shine quite as much as they should. And they're I don't know, they're trying to do the promotional side of things, getting Budweiser or Heineken or whoever to market for him more than the show itself.
What do you think of the vets versus prospects format?
Right off the bat, I thought the vets were going to slaughter him. I thought I don't know whose team the vets are going to be on.
Well, you're not wrong so far.
So yeah, apparently so far.
I didn't watch episode 3. Did they win the vets in episode 3?
They did, but I missed it as well. Yeah, the vets
so
won
3-0.
So yep, 3-0. And Trevor didn't tell me anything, so I have no idea how he did, or how his team did. But right off the bat, I thought, man, the vets are going to crush him. If you look at the record of the guys, I think the vets, the smallest record on the vet is like 20-5, and on the challengers, they're all 6-2 ish. There's just a wealth of experience on the vet side. They've already made it to the UFC. They've already proven how good they are, and now we've got to see if the challengers can step up and overtake that experience.
Right. Yeah. And listen, man, we're not going to keep you too much longer. We do have a few more questions if you don't mind, while you're here. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, man. So while you're here, again, while we have you here, we might as well ask. It has been in the news lately, so we almost feel obligated. I'm sure you know where we're going with this. Daniel Cormier recently said something along the lines of, longevity shouldn't get you into the UFC Hall of Fame, right? Matt Brown responded. Just for anyone who didn't know, here's part of what he said. He said, "It's not like Sam Alvey longevity. You're doing something extraordinary. It is extraordinary, not to toot my own horn, but to be in there for 15 years. That's an effing extraordinary feat." I'm curious, man, what are your thoughts on what he said, specifically, sort of including you into that quote out of the blue? Like, what was your reaction? The internet had some fun with it, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, that bastard, man. I was sitting here just eating my lunch, and I get a stray bullet coming off the side. It's like, well, what in the hell is that? 25 fights. I had 25 fights in the organization. I understand I didn't finish my career with the UFC as well as I started it, but I had a hell of a run in there somewhere. And if you look at a lot of those last 8 fights, I'm not even saying I should be in the Hall of Fame. I shouldn't be. But there's no 25 fights is something. The UFC isn't going to keep me around just because they want to keep me around. They keep me around because I'm a draw, because I put on good fights, because I won a lot of those fights. The judges say I lost, which the UFC has told me too. I made a video about it on my YouTube channel. Just
I
kind
saw
of
that.
briefly comment. Yeah, and it was. I'm sure he didn't mean anything by it, but then to throw himself in. How many fights does Matt Brown have in the UFC? I meant to Google it or look it up, but I forgot to.
We could
He
do it right.
offers.
Why don't we check it right now?
Yeah, he was kind of retired for a while, so he has 15 years, but he hasn't fought all that many. Power to him. I mean, he's been there, and he's winning as much as the guy can win. So yeah, so good for him. But I don't know why he had to throw my name in there.
On the UFC, I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
just
damn near most of them, Sam. Well, half of
yeah,
them.
I'm sure he's been there for a minute. I mean, he's been
Yeah.
there for 15 years. And power to him. I think he's trying to get his name talked about. I don't know. I don't know why he threw my name in there, but he's an enjoyable fighter. I've always liked watching him. Jim Miller absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame. I think longevity is. If people could fight in the UFC for as long as Jim Miller did, they would fight in the UFC for as long as Jim Miller did. If
Bingo.
if DC wanted to fight in the UFC or could fight in the UFC for as long as Jim Miller did, DC would have, but he couldn't. He didn't have the drive anymore. He didn't have the tenacity to train. He didn't think he could win, maybe. So I think DC's all wet in that regard. But Jim Miller is Hall of Fame worthy.
I was going to ask you that to follow up, so thank you for answering that. I do agree that Jim Miller is Hall of Fame worthy. But again, man, you just got the win. We do not want to take up any more of your time. So I want to ask you one more question, man. What are the plans for the summer, right? You're coming off the W. Everything's good vibes going into, the hotter months. Do you have any plans, man, as far as it could be family time, it could be getting another fight, it could be a combination of both? What are you looking forward to in the coming months?
A lot of it is I'm trying to grow my social media, my YouTube particularly. I've been doing a lot of work on that, putting a lot of videos out on my YouTube channel, which is Smiling Sam everywhere. So I'm doing a lot of stuff with that. Growing my farm. I'm starting a food truck. I'm going to fight again here in the next month or two. As soon as I can find more people to say yes. Fighters aren't as tough now as they used to be. It's ridiculous. And I'm just trying to find someone to say yes, because I've never said no, and I'm pretty tickled that I've never said no, and I like to be able to brag that all these young bucks keep saying no to me.
Sam, it's always a pleasure to speak to you, man, get your thoughts. I was very happy to see you get the win as a fan of yours, and I'm very excited to see you get back in there sometime soon, hopefully within the next month or two. Like you said, man, all the best to you and the family.
Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, sir.